Hello, everybody. I have got Eric with me today, and we're going to be talking about advantages and disadvantages of enterprise and point solutions. But before we get into kind of defining what those are and the questions that I have for you, Eric, can you give everybody a quick introduction?
Sure. My name is Eric Kimberling, and I've been in the ERP consulting space now for about 25 years. I'm an independent consultant or the CEO of an independent consulting firm called Third Stage Consulting, and we help clients select and implement different types of enterprise technologies.
Great, thank you. So for my first question, I just want to start by setting a base layer for everybody in regard to what do we mean when we call out an enterprise platform as opposed to a point solution, because we live and breathe in this world, but everyone else might not be so familiar with those terms. So let's do that to get us started.
Sure. So enterprise solutions or an enterprise system is typically a broader system that's meant to tie together multiple parts of an organization. So probably the most common example is going to be an ERP system or enterprise resource planning. And that's a type of system that has broad capabilities that ties together finance and warehouse management and inventory management, your customer relationship management, human capital management. It ties together all those processes into one system. And ERP systems are probably the most common form, but it's meant to be a broad, single view of the entire organization.
Do you want to do point solutions too?
Oh, sure. And then point solutions, on the other hand, are going to be more individual systems that handle specific needs within an organization. So rather than having a single ERP system, for example, that does everything or tries to do everything for your organization, you might have a separate financial system and then a separate CRM, warehouse management or e-commerce, whatever the part of your business that you're trying to automate. You would go find a technology and deploy a technology that's very specific to that part of the organization versus trying to find a system that tries to do everything across the entire enterprise.
Great, thank you. So to kind of continue the conversation, I want to dive into this idea of enterprise platforms a little bit more and talk about, again, just as promised at the beginning of our conversation, what are some of the pros of moving towards an enterprise solution as opposed to those point solutions? And maybe what are some of the cautions that you consult your customers with when they're looking to make these types of decisions?
Sure. So I'd say the main advantages of an enterprise system relative to a point solution or a series of point solutions is, first of all, that it's a single system to deploy. So it's one common platform. As far as deploying the technology, everyone just needs to learn that one system. Probably even more importantly, it ties together the entire enterprise. So you have a single system that's integrated versus trying to tie together or integrate, a patchwork or a group of different types of systems. So those are probably the two most common things, are that you get a single platform that ties together all your data, ties together all your processes, and it's a single system for your employees to use. So you don't have to train people on different systems or try to worry about, how they're going to learn all these different systems that you might tie together.
And can you tell us maybe what are some of those caution points where you talk through kind of, again, the counterpoints to the advantages?
Sure. So the caution points are, there's a number of them. It sounds good in theory. I think, what I described is the advantages of ERP or enterprise technologies. Most organizations are enamored by those benefits, and that tends to be what they focus on. But there are actual risks, and it's important to understand what those risks are because they are significant. One is that it's nearly impossible to find a single system that's going to be able to do everything you want it to do within an organization. So, for example, you might find an enterprise technology that handles your financial needs really well, your inventory needs really well. But if you're a manufacturer, for example, it doesn't do manufacturing well, or it doesn't do warehouse management well, or it doesn't quite meet your needs. And so there's a constant trade-off there of, do I really want a single ERP system that has the advantages that I described, or do I want to go find technologies that are specific to my needs in different parts of my business? And there's no right or wrong answer there. You have to look at the cost benefit and the risks and the trade-offs of both. So I'd say that's probably the first thing is just the fact that it's impossible to find a system that can do everything you want it to do. The second thing is deploying those systems can be more costly and take more time than deploying point solutions. So in today's lean, agile type of environment where a lot of organizations are focused on speed and being more lean and being agile, ERP or single enterprise technologies sort of run counter to that, or they can run counter to that. And what I mean by that is because it takes a long time to deploy an entire system across an entire enterprise, and so you have to have the patience and the wherewithal to be able to power through that and to get to the other side of those larger enterprise deployments.
So I think some of what you just shared in this idea of kind of the counterpoint plays nicely into then taking a look at the other side of this coin and looking at those point solutions. And I think a lot of it is, kind of hand in hand with the advantages and disadvantages and kind of the flip side of it. But can we let's talk through the advantages going off of what you just said, where you have this point solution that's coming in to solve your specific problem. Can you talk through maybe some examples of where a point solution would come into an organization and how that would be to their benefit?
Sure. So a lot of times, rather than looking at an entire enterprise landscape across your entire business, organizations may say, I have this very specific problem in this specific area that I want to solve. It could be something like document management, which I know is an area you know well. So document management or customer relationship management on the sales side, maybe your HR department, new HR technology via a human capital management or HCM system. So it's more focused on, one specific need, and you focus on your needs in that one area. You find and deploy the technology that best fits that one area. And you don't necessarily worry about, could that technology be a great fit for other parts of the organization as well? You're really honing in on one specific problem area and deploying the technology within that. So that's probably the biggest advantage, is that you're more likely to get a better functional fit when you go with point solutions, because you're addressing specific needs or specific problems within a specific area of your business.
And then kind of the counterpoint to that, now we're looking at all sorts of balance all over the place. What are some of the risks of choosing to find and one of the things that I talk a lot with my clients about is when you're bringing in an enterprise class solution, to your point, what we've talked about, you have one solution, you have one skill set, there's a little less training, but maybe you're getting 85, 90% of what you need instead of that 100% perfect, set it and forget it point solution. But what's the other side of that look like? And why would you maybe caution people moving forward with that approach?
Yeah, so the cautions of a point solution are going to be, first of all, you're inherently creating a multi-system environment that adds a certain level of complexity to your IT landscape. So for example, if you go out and you deploy a document management system over here, and then over here you deploy an HCM system, over here you deploy a separate financial system. Now you've got to figure out, how do I tie this all together? How do I tie together my processes and my data and just the systems in general? So there's a certain amount of complexity and risk associated with that. The other thing is, even though there are clear advantages to that point solution approach in terms of speed and being able to get immediate value or more immediate value out of those technologies, it can actually create sort of a chaotic system landscape where there's no necessarily clear direction on what is the overall digital strategy of the entire organization. So while on one hand, yes, you're moving more quickly, you're narrowing in and honing in on specific needs for certain parts of your business, you can deploy quicker and less expensively than an entire enterprise system. In some ways, it creates other problems, because now you're trying to figure out how to tie this all together. So those are probably the biggest risks. And then, of course, the other risk is that from a user adoption or from an employee perspective or change management perspective, now you've got to figure out how to train people on multiple systems, especially if you're a small or mid-sized organization where you don't have necessarily a huge team of people that are very narrowly focused on one specific job. For a lot of small and mid-sized companies, people cut across processes and they have to deal with multiple systems in those point solution environments. So that can be confusing for people to have to learn multiple systems in those cases. So those are a few of the downside risks to think about when it comes to the point solutions.
Thank you. And I think the moral of the story here is there isn't a right or a wrong answer. there are options for organizations, and that's part of why working with an organization like Third Stage or Navient to kind of help have some of those conversations and bring forward those ideas of what are the risks, what are the advantages, and finding the right solution for your organization is so critical. And it's not a yes or a no or a right or a wrong. It's figuring out what makes sense for you and fits in with your strategy as an organization. So I would like to, one, thank you for joining me today and having this discussion. Two, encourage everybody to make your way over to Eric's LinkedIn and or his YouTube, because he puts out a ton of really great content, all centered around this idea of digital transformation, and maybe a little different twist than me and my intelligent automation world, looking more specifically at like ERP and HRIS implementations. So make sure that you make your way there, and then you might see my face pop up soon with some other collaborations that we'll be doing. But thank you again, Eric, for joining me, and have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thanks, Emma. Thanks, everyone.
If you're looking for expert tips on how to get started with your transformation or looking to hone in on your approach, make sure that you subscribe to our channel to catch our weekly Digital Transformation Talk series, where we interview experts from around the world on how to make it happen.